Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Poetricious Poetry Challenge, day 23. Well, we're coming down to the end of our journey. We've got 8 days left in this countdown to the 30th of April. I hope you have enjoyed the poetry that's been shared here, as well as the other poets that have tagged me, and I have posted their poetry on my wall. Our goal is to inspire you through poetry, to encourage and uplift you, to put something else on your timeline besides the crises going on around the world. So, in addition, for the last 10 days, in addition to a poem, you're also going to get a tip. So, today's poetry and poetry tips are coming up. Today, I'm going to give you a sneak peek from my upcoming book. I have a couple of upcoming books, but this sneak peek is for a book coming out later this fall called More Ink for the Pen. More Ink for the Pen, new and selected poems by yours truly. And this is a sneak peek you're going to get today. And the title of the poem, I must give a shout out to Jewel Taylor because several years ago, I lived through a life-threatening illness, and we were talking one day, and she just was talking, how we sisters talk, and she said, I believe God lets you live through this because He has more ink for your pen. And I said, I'm going to use that in a title. I don't know how, I don't know when. That was 2015. So when I started putting together this collection of new and selected poems, I remembered that title, More Ink for the Pen. And this is certainly, definitely fitting. I was able to find just an ink spot for the cover, and I can't wait to release this later on this year. So today you'll get two poems from this upcoming book, More Ink for the Pen. First poem is entitled Inspired by Madame Butterfly, and I'll give the story behind the rhyme when I finish each poem. The second poem is entitled Love Me. For the first poem, Madame Butterfly. You stand admiring me in all of my beauty. You ooh and you ah at my colors and the expanse of my wings. Your smile and your eyes playfully follow me in flight. You carve images of my likeness in metal, in clay, on canvas and paper, and yet you haven't scratched the surface of my real beauty. My true identity lies in my beginning, and you were not there. When I first crawled on my belly, stripped from my skin, imprisoned in a crusty shell, left hanging on for dear life on a random branch on a tree somewhere. From the ground to the shell to the form changing metamorphosis that made me who I am today. And you would not ooh and you would not ah if you were there in my beginning, which is why I find your current awe of my current state so ironic. Inspired by Madame Butterfly. I wrote this poem after a challenge. The Marqueum Art Center in Haddonfield, New Jersey, they had a art display, and they asked local poets to come look at the portraits, walk around, look at the portraits in the gallery, and see if any portrait inspired a poem. And that's where this poem came from. The portrait that I selected is called Choo Choo San by Richard Viola, a local artist. He passed away a few years ago, but his poem, I'm sorry, not his poem, his portrait, Choo Choo San, was this beautiful portrait of a butterfly. And as I stood there looking at that, I imagined, what would this butterfly say to me if it could speak? And that was the inspiration for the poem I just read. The second poem is entitled Love Me. And hi, Latoya. And this poem was I'll share the story behind the rhyme after I recite it. It's called Love Me. I asked God one day, "How do you want me to love you, God?" This was his reply: "Love me like a painter loves his art, like you never want to part, like I own all of your heart, like you did from the start. Love me like they sing in those love songs, like that house that's not a home, even when you feel alone, you know, like before you did me wrong. Love me like you need me to survive, like I'm your rhythm and your rhyme, with all your heart and all your mind, you know, like you did when you had time. Love me like I really live within, like I am your closest friend, through thick and through thin, you know, like you loved him. Love me like I really want you to, like when you meet someone new and you don't know what to do, like you want me to love you. Love me." So that poem was born of a poetry assignment that I gave to a poetry group that I was director of for a few years in Camden. And the assignment was to write a poem, a love poem, in God's voice. And so that's why the first line begins, I asked God, "How do you want me to love you?" And this is what he said. So that was the story behind the rhyme for that poem. And those two and more will be included in this upcoming book later on this fall, late fall of 2020, entitled More Ink for the Pen, New and Selected Poems by yours truly. So now, for the tip for today, your poetry tip. Your poetry tip, I have notes for each day. Okay, don't be afraid to come outside of your box. When you see poetry challenges, poetry prompts, writing prompts, take advantage of that. Accept a challenge. Here are a couple of books. Again, I'm sharing books from my shelf. Poetry prompts, 300 prompts, 400 prompts. Each page has a different prompt on it. Write a new chapter in your life starting right now. In what way should airlines improve air travel? These are just writing prompts. Complete this thought. Today I hope, and you finish it. But different writing prompts like this are what will help you grow as a poet. Give yourself challenges, give yourself homework. This book that's coming out later this fall is over 100 poems that I've written over the years from poetry prompts and different workshops, different classes, different online communities that I was a part of. And I took the poetry prompts and I did them and I saved the ones that I like best, and they're going to go in this book. So that's your poem or your poems and your tips for today. Now, when I was reviewing yesterday's video after I went off, I realized I did not keep my promise to tell you how the story behind how Nikki Giovanni winded up signing all but one of my books of hers. So, long story short, when people say that it's never really short. Long story short, Nikki Giovanni was at Borders before Borders closed. This is how long ago this was. And it was a new book coming out of hers called The Complete Collection of Nikki Giovanni at that time. And I heard she was going to be in town. I grabbed all my books that I had from high school and my 20s off the shelf, all her poetry collections that I had over the years that I showed you yesterday. And I went down and stood in the long line with everybody else, bought the new book, stood in line with that and all my old books. So when I got up to her and I put all the books down on the table, and she looked up and kind of like gave me this look. And I was like, "Hi, I'm so glad to meet you. I've been following your poetry for so many years since I was in high school, and here are all your books that I've had over the years. Can you please sign all of them?" And she was like, "Honey, I can't sign all of them. I'm under contract with this bookstore. I'm only supposed to sign the book that came out today." And I didn't know anything about book signing and stuff back then. I was just, a young girl trying to get my poetry person that I like so much to sign my books. And I was like, "Please, please, oh, please, can you sign them?" And she looked up at me and she looked over at somebody that was with her behind the table. And she was like, "You know what? Give me all the books." She signed every single book that I had, plus the new one that I bought at that book signing. So that's the story behind that. And like I said, I admire her poetry, not just her content. She started in the civil rights movement. She was really a revolutionary writer. She wrote a lot about civil rights in addition to writing a lot about love poems and stuff like that. I loved her style. I loved the way, she did her line breaks and different things like that. In addition to a couple of her books are my favorites. So that's the story behind the rhyme for the two poems today. Your poetry tip, take advantage of poetry prompts, and the story behind all my books getting signed by Nikki Giovanni. So tomorrow is day number 24. Oh, one more thing. Today, oh no, that's Friday. Oh, that's Saturday. I'll save it for Saturday. There's a very historical day in the literary community, and there's a argument with historians whether it's the 23rd or the 25th. I'm going to save my announcement for the 25th, and that's going to coincide with my tip for the 25th, which is Saturday. In the meantime, have a great day. Keep writing, keep sharing your poetry, and I'll see you on tomorrow. Bye.